Welcome along to Zandvoort in Holland for the third event in the Toyo Tyres Porsche Championship for 2013. And a strong contingent of cars has made it across the water. The sun is shining. We're near the sea, so it's a perfect venue. The former Grand Prix track here at Zandvoort sees Richard Styron on pole with Cliff Graham alongside J.M. Littman third and Will Sharpe fourth. Then it's Arjo Josh and Jonathan Greensmith, followed by Marc Mackenzie and Steve Boyles. Adam Croft and Steve Potts on row 5, followed by Nick Hull, and then Julian Brown on production pole. Alistair Kirkham's next with Simon Hawksley, then Rebecca Jackson and Philip Waters, followed by Clive Morrison and David Jones. Hugh Peart and Anthony Mekvinsky completing the 20-car grid. Bernie Printy will be in the mix as well. We're looking from the pole position car now to Marc Mackenzie. Several onboards, as you can see, including Philip Waters. Good to see Philip in the championship. Ex-driving instructor, Potts, the ex-Steve Potts 924. But the view from J.M. Littman there of the race leader, Adam Croft, gets away well, as does the red car of Cliff Graham. We're on board momentarily with Cliff as they come down into Tarzan for the first time, this 180-degree bend. But J.M. Littman starting well, a little bit of contact there as they go into the... Always a little bit worrying when you go off the straight down into a hairpin for the first time. Now the squabbling pack need to avoid the situation that's happening at the moment. Well, we'll go back to that in a minute, because David Jones looking up the inside of Clive Morrison. Cars through Hugenholtz and then up towards turn 7. Marc Mackenzie involved in a squabble there. On board with Adam Croft, that's what happened. Mackenzie had a little bit of a clout with the yellow car of Jonathan Greensmith. I think might have picked up some damage, but at the moment it's Richard Styron who leads them away. Look at the undulations and curves on this circuit. It's absolutely wonderful. And Richard Styron, who takes his third event pole position of the year. Cliff Graham's making a move into second place past J.M. Littman. Cracking move from the 59-year-old from Southport up into second place. A massive squabble going on behind him. And this is great news for Rick Styron, because he's going to start to get away. On board with Marc Mackenzie. And the lead Boxsters all squabbling over positions. The all-white car of Arjo Josh involved in the mix as well. 77, Steve Boyles chasing Arjo at the moment. Will Sharpe's made the trip over as well. Steve Boyles, of course, the only driver to have won a race other than Richard Styron so far this year in the 5 races we've had. Back on board with J.M. Littman. Very close look at the battle for second position. There's the second position car. Cliff Graham in red. On a spinner in the 924s, Philip Waters manages to negotiate that. So good healthy representation in all the classes here. Down the main straight to complete the first of what we think will be a 10-lap race, 20-minute time race. The BRSCC running this meeting with under the banner of the Caterham Eurofest. We've got some ex-Caterham drivers, of course, racing in Porsches now. Have made the switch over and enjoying it. One of them is J.M. Littman, who is running at the moment in that 4th position, the third of these cars coming through shot. So through Hugenholtz, which is at the back of the pit complex here, and then the climb up to Hensrug, and then the Rob Slodemacher curve before they start to double back and come back towards the home part of the circuit here at Zandvoort. The former Grand Prix venue, if you think you recognise it, of course the halcyon days of the 70s when a slightly longer circuit was run for the Dutch Grand Prix, and slightly shorter version these days. The lap record held by Earl Goddard in a single-seater, if you remember Boss Formula going back in the day. That's the outright lap record, and of course the Porsches here to set their own targets today. J.M. Littman's target at the moment is Will Sharpe. There is Littman, the third of the cars, chasing Will Sharpe ahead of him. Will's had a very good induction into the championship, joined us late last year. That's a great thing to do, just dip your toe in the water towards the end of one season and then come in and have a go. J.M. Littman with just one race to his credit so far in the opening round at Rockingham, where he took 4th place, so good result for J.M. and he's equaling that position at the moment. Richard Starry flashes through shot, still in the lead. Richard having had 4 wins on the bounce so far, and starting to pedal away from the rest of them. Qualifying time for Richard 2 minutes 00.7, and second on the grid Cliff Graham 2 minutes 1.273, so a little bit of a gap. At the moment the car's settling in. Will Sharpe qualified 4th, so he's made up for pace on his grid position as they come down the straight, and you can see Richard Styron starting to get away. So back down the order, Julian Brown there leading the 72 car of Alistair Kirkham. Julian leading the production Boxsters and still in the early stages of his racing career. Man from Reigate in Surrey, company director, so works hard as all of these drivers do to pay for their racing. So Cliff Graham running well. James Littman having a good go there for second position. He was looking at the inside line, switches to the outside. I think that's a problem for Clive Morrison, one of the 924s, who looks like he's going to go out of the race. So 3 races at this event at Zandvoort. So the top 4 running well. Steve Boyles at the moment in 5th position, then Arjo Josh. David Jones goes out. We saw the onboard flash of David Jones on lap 1, and he's out of the race as Adam Croft effects a pass here. Oh, contact! Adam Croft involved in contact with Marc Mackenzie. Crofty goes round. Now, is he going to be out of the race? Marc Mackenzie's certainly been in the wars in this one, the X924 driver. Yeah, Mark's definitely got a problem. Going past him is Steve Potts, and then the Union flag livery car of Nick Hull. But we're going back to the battle for second position at the moment. Cliff Graham's still there. Will Sharpe. Hensharp's not here this weekend. Will Sharpe in second place, and then J.M. Littman in third. Still plenty of time for this to sort itself out, and then just behind them we've got Steve Boyles, Arjo Josh, and then Nick Hull and Steve Potts running in fairly close proximity as well down the order. Simon Hawksley is racing in the 924s this weekend. Alistair Kirkham back out as well. And here they come down the main straight once again with Richard Styron setting the fastest lap of the race again. Now Richard it looks like he's going to continue his run of fastest laps as well. He's had four wins on the bounce and 3 fastest laps. Marc Mackenzie pulls the car over to safety and into pit road to join the other retirees and out of the race. So the car's coming out of Airy Lyndike corner and down the main straight. So this is good racing going on once again in the Toyo Tyres Porsche Championship. I know the drivers wanted me to pass on a big thanks to Stena Ferries for giving some very good rates to get the cars over here. Car number 3, Simon Hawksley, top of the 924 stack at the moment. And there's the man leading the Boxsters, the 3 retirees. Marc Mackenzie, David Jones and Clive Morrison out of it. Will Sharpe still in third position. He's pulled a little bit of a gap at the moment on J.M. Littman, so J.M. perhaps having a bit of a breather. Adam Croft into the pit lane as well. Crofty with a non-finish in race 1 at Silverstone, you might remember, so not having the happiest of rounds 2 and 3, but hopefully he'll get 2 decent finishes in the remaining races. Racing journalist Rebecca Jackson took a win, of course, in the production class in race 1 at Silverstone. Very, very keenly fought, the productions. You've got Julian Brown in the mix as well. And we look down the order. This is Philip Waters in the patterned car ahead of Anthony Mekvinsky. So those 2 involved in the scrap for, let me see, 3rd position in the 924s. Steve Potts leading Nick Hull at the moment. Let's go on board with Nick and see what it's like in the office here at Zandvoort. Nick Hull qualified in 11th position, so he's actually made up a bit of ground. He's up into 8th place at the moment, chasing Steve Potts, who is ahead of him.
Nick Hull, Julian Brown and Simon
Steve Potts down over the line into Tarzan Corner, the man from West Malling in Kent, which is actually pretty near the BRSCC headquarters, works in banking and finance, was the Boxster production champion last year, and he's got the edge over his 47-year-old compatriot from Harrogate. Car prepared by Newbridge Racing. Nick, an ex-short circuit kart racing. The great thing about the Boxsters is that, and the Porsche Championship as a whole, is that it attracts drivers from all different walks of motorsport. So it seems to have a universal appeal for karters, saloon car racers, drivers who raced a few years ago who are looking to coming back, aspirant sports car drivers as well. And I think that's a testament to the strength of the championship. We've got the 3 classes that you can take part in as well. We've got the full race Boxsters, the production Boxsters, and of course the older championship 924s, which are still running very healthily at the moment, as we continue to watch Steve Potts leading Nick Hull. Nick getting closer by turn. This is a very long lap to learn and navigate, and now we can see that Nick Hull is closing up, and I think he's going to have a go. Looks to the right side of Steve Potts' car, and I think he's got the move done. The question is, what's the next corner going to present? And it presents an inside line for him, so he thought that one out. Cracking move then by Nick Hull to move up a position, but Potts isn't finished yet. This is reminiscent of Rockingham in many ways because of the amount of twists and turns on the circuit. If you get an advantage on if you get an outside on a one corner, that convert to the inside to the next. As we go back to this very good battle for second place, Will Sharpe in white, busy chasing the red Cliff Graham car. Cliff's first meeting of the season. So around the back of the pit complex here, heading up towards turn 7. Richard Styron still posting fastest laps ahead of these and starting to move clear of the field. So Richard Styron leading, Cliff Graham in second position, followed by Will Sharpe. Then it's J.M. Lippman.
Want to keep up with all the racing action at the track? Well, download the new Go Racing TV iPhone and Android app. And remember to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
Welcome back to Zandvoort in Holland, and we're looking at the scrap for 7th position. At the moment, it's Nick Hull who leads Steve Potts. These two have been battling hard all the way through the first 10 minutes of the race, and we're into the second half now. And this is the view from the 4th place car. J.M. Lippman looking at Cliff Graham being harassed by Will Sharpe. Will Sharpe, the ex-MG racer from Radcliffe-on-Trent is Will, owner of Wayside Adhesives, ex-champion in the MGs. Cliff Graham passes one of the struggling 924s. I think that might be... Oh, Cliff, he's gone off! Now what's happened there? Cliff Graham goes off. Was there contact? There is now. Cliff Graham's off on the dirt, and the second place man is out of the race, and it's Will Sharpe into second. J.M. Lippman goes third. Here's a replay, but there was a moment leading up to that. Will Sharpe got into contact. I'm pretty sure nothing intentional there. Very rarely is in motor racing, unless of course the red mist comes down severely, and Cliff Graham finds himself sadly out of the race. J.M. Lippman now challenging for second position. So it's Will Sharpe there. Then Steve Boyle's in 4th place, and he comes down to the outside line at Tarzan, but slightly better on the brakes, and of course with the advantage of going on the inside line is Will Sharpe running in second position. This is the view from Phil Waters' past. Phil Waters passed by Anthony Mekvinsky. That was for 3rd base in the 924s. At the moment, Alistair Kirkham and Simon Hawksley ahead of those. So J.M. Lippman, the ex-Caterham star, seems to find himself now with an opportunity perhaps to challenge for second place. He's, I think, pacing himself towards the end of the race here, and he's starting to try and line up Will Sharpe. So here's the view from JM's car again. Will Sharpe had 3 second places at the first round, second position in race 5 of the championship, and 5th at Silverstone, so he's only been off the podium so far once this year. It looks like he's going to get another one. He seems to have found a very good sparring partner here in J.M. Lippman. So J.M. trying to close him down. The Webheads boss sharing the car this year, so we haven't seen him do all the rounds. as we go back to the scrap between Steve Potts and Nick Hull, and Potts closing up very, very closely here. The 25 car starting to put pressure on. He's found the inside line. There he goes. He's through. Nick Hull's been passed. So Steve Potts returns the favour from earlier on in the race. There is the view from the stricken Cliff Graham machine. I think Cliff's waiting for a recovery truck to perhaps get the car away. So the race leaders into a little bit of backmarker traffic. Bernie Printy being one of those. So out of Harry Lyondike corner, down the main straight once again, and reeling off another lap. J.M. Littman trying hard, but so too is the Logson Group backed Richard Styron. Ian Loggy making it possible for Richard Styron to come here and race, and he is pretty much on his own at the moment. We'll see how he gets on in the reverse grid race later on, because, well, that's assuming that he can deliver the goods in race 2. Here comes the rescue vehicle for Cliff Graham. And of course we have to thank the Dutch marshals and many of the BRSCC marshals for coming over and working with us. Quick shot of Philip Waters, who has a moment off, and I think that's going to hurt his battle for third place in the 924s. But lights ablaze in case there is any more traffic for the race leader, Richard Styron, the reigning champion, 42 years of age from leaders. J.M. Littman goes for the lead. Side by side they go. Steve Boyles is coming up in the mix as well. It looks like Littman's car is working slightly the better in the closing stages. He's all over the back at the moment of Will Sharpe. Sharpe gets the turn in. The advantage of being front is that you can grab the line. It's not a massively wide circuit as the battle for the productions carries on. 79 Julian Brown being chased by Rebecca Jackson. So we can see that they're scrapping all the way down the order. Rebecca seems to have caught Julian Brown, so the lady racer, 30 years of age from Reading, in her second season with us, running very well, ran in the 924s last year and already has got a win and seems to be trading wins and fastest laps with the man who's in front of her at the moment. Cliff Graham's car gets towed away as the battle for second place goes past. Will Sharpe still there. J.M. Littman snapping at his heels, wanting that second position. Got to be mindful, JM, because he's got a little bit of pressure now starting to build from Steve Boyles behind him. Remember, Steve Boyles, the winner of round 1. Littman's going to try and get the run out of Harry Lyondike corner, down the main straight, looks down the inside, and now switches back to the outside. Will Sharpe getting very defensive indeed, right off the racing line. Moves out a little bit, so a slightly conservative line from the second place driver as they go round Tarzan. Tarzan, the mirror of the corner, of course, of the same name at Rockingham, where we were at event 1 of the championship. And on board with JM again, up through the climb as they go through Hugenholtz. Wonderful corner, lovely climb, and Littman looks to the left, thinks about looking to the right, but at the moment he hasn't got an answer. The next corner is going to be the left-hander, and then back into the right-hander at Skyvik corner. Philip Waters goes past Anthony McVinsky, outbreaks him down into the corner. Waters takes third place, back on board with J.M. Littman, and he's got the inside run out of the last corner, down the straight, across the line. J.M. Littman into second position. That was a very clearly well thought out manoeuvre by Littman to take second place. We can see the car of Cliff Graham has now been moved right up to the barrier rather than being at an angle to the barrier, so that car is safe. Nick Hull still chasing Stephen Potts, of course, those two in 6th position now as we go back to the race leader. Richard Styron looking for his 5th win in succession, his 5th win of the 2013 season. J.M. Littman's going to get his first podium if he stays where he is. This is the battle for third place in the 924s, and it's been a cracker between Anthony McVinsky and Philip Waters. And down behind them is Richard Styron. This is the view from Nick Hull, still trying to close in on Steve Potts ahead of him. Haven't seen too much of Arjo Josh, have we? But look at that, Nick Hull having a very good go there to try and take 6th position. Comes offline, loses a little bit of momentum. Stephen Potts hangs on to 6. I was starting to say about Arjo Josh ahead of them, the Sussex-based driver in the white Boxster. We saw him at the start. Still shenanigans with the 924s. And Anthony McVinsky goes across the gravel in front of the race leader. That could have caused a problem for Richard Styron, who I think sees it in good time. He's got a good lead, so 5 seconds or so lead at the moment, so he manages to get past. Philip Waters will be the next target for him as he comes up across the line. Here he comes and takes the win. Richard Styron it is. Another win for him. J.M. Littman's going to take second position. There he goes. He's delighted with that. His first podium in Porsche racing. Cracking stuff for him. Will Sharpe takes third. That's his 5th podium of the season. And here comes the battling pair for 6th and 7th. Steve Potts still ahead of Nick Hull. Steve Potts, these two have had a cracking race, and it is going to be Steve Potts coming home to take 6th position here at Zandvoort, the first race here for these drivers. 924s of production guys still involved in their race, and it's Simon Hawksley there in the black number 3 car who's going to take the honours in the 924s. So Simon Hawksley, this is going to be his first win of the season. He's taken 2 podia so far, and he's going to be very, very pleased to win it on this very challenging circuit, as too was Richard Styron, who takes the win from J.M. Littman. Will Sharpe in 3rd place from Steve Boyles. Arjo Josh in 5th from Steve Potts. Simon Hawksley takes the 924 win. Alistair Kirkham in 2nd and Phil Waters in 3rd. The production's going the way of Rebecca Jackson, who overcame Julian Brown in the later stages to take her 2nd win of the season.
JM, quite an exciting day for you.
Yeah, great race. What a great circuit. Beautiful sunshine, great racing. I couldn't be over the moon. Happy. Very happy.
Okay, and I understand that you were pretty much instrumental in getting everybody over here, is that the case?
Yeah, we did a great deal with Stenaline. They gave everyone an incredible discount, and yeah, we're pretty much across the whole BRSCC packet, so we're really, really happy. Thank you, Stenaline, for sorting us out, and of course, thank you to all my sponsors. We just had an engine rebuild with Perfect Touch and Catalyst and Liberty 2, and of course, Webheads, which is my company, also a series sponsor. So yeah, great, really great weekend, lovely hospitality by the Dutch here. We can't wait to come over for race 2.
And 2nd place.
Yeah, P2 was great. I mean, we got mixed up 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and we let Rick get away. It was like, no, let's not let Rick away. Can't let him win a game. But you know, 2nd race, I'm going to be starting alongside of him. You know, well, you know, we've got to make it more interesting for him. He must be bored leading, right?
Richard, pretty much Mr. Unstoppable, I'd say.
I think I had quite a fair bit of luck in that race. I knew that 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th on the grid were up for a very sort of exciting race, and they wanted to get stuck in, and we're at a famous race circuit, so I knew the key was to get a good start, and then I looked behind and they were fighting, which is what I hoped. So I think I had some good fortune.
Good start. You were like quarter of a lap ahead.
I think I matched the revs right on the car and got a good start, and then I knew once they started to hold each other up, it's a little bit easier when you've got a gap at the front. So I'm delighted, and the team had given me a perfect setup.
Well, we've talked to 1 or 2 drivers, and they seem to be plotting against you for the next race.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. It's nice that the Porsche Series is out in Zandvoort. The weather's been beautiful. Bar a little bit of car damage, everyone seems to be enjoying themselves.
Well, from our perspective outside on the circuit, that was quite an exciting race. How was it for you?
Really exciting, on probably the most exciting track that I've ever raced on. Yeah, real nice, close racing. A bit of bumping and boring going on, but nothing that people aren't used to, and yeah, real nice race.
Good. And so, how do you think things are going to go tomorrow? Because everybody's trying to gang up on Rick Styron.
Yeah, I think we're closing the gap on him. Definitely, people are getting closer with different setups and things, and the key is just going to be if he can get somebody on him from the beginning and not let him get a 2 or 3 second lead after the first lap, then he's going to start making mistakes, because he's only human at the end of the day.
Some of the biggest upheavals in American sports is in the world of motor racing, especially sports car racing. There's mergers, new series being proposed, audiences coming and going, drivers getting younger and younger. That's why you need the Racing Insiders on MAV TV to help you navigate the turmoil. The Racing Insiders is a new, weekly, 30-minute news show covering sports car racing, whether it's being done professionally, globally, or by the local grassroots club. Award-winning journalist Bill Wood will host the weekly discussions, along with race-winning insiders Peter Keene in Florida and Jim Daniels in Tennessee. It's a fast-paced, edgy sports show. They'll even reach out to guest insiders to bring you behind-the-scenes insider information you'll want to know. This new era in sports car racing needs the Racing Insiders.
The Racing Insiders on MAV TV, Thursdays at 2 and 5 p.m. Eastern, and again on Saturdays at noon.
Now we come to the reverse grid for the final race, and you've got Mr. Styrene alongside you. Are we going to be able to do him?
Yeah, well, I got a plan. I'm going to follow Rick through a touring car style, and he's going to just open a gap for me, and we're just going to follow through and then get to the front. But yeah, it's exciting stuff. I think the top four have 30 seconds over the fifth, sixth, and the mid pack. So I think we're going to get up to them pretty quickly. It's just there's some hard chargers up the front who aren't going to want to get out of the way. So it's going to be exciting stuff. I'd like a win.
Cliff, interesting weekend.
Very, I'm afraid. Yeah, I had the best qualifying I've ever had at second position on the front row. First race of the year for me, and in the Boxster, and I was amazed, but got up alongside Rick Styrene, very similar times, and yeah, it was excellent for me qualifying. You want to know about what happened after that? I was
going to say a bit downhill after that, wasn't it?
Yeah, running second halfway through the race, and had a bit of a moment and got tipped off and into the barrier, so that put me out the race. So that was the end of that, so that was a shame. However, the next race this morning, we were running fifth quite nicely because I started at the back, and had another moment, had a spin actually, just put a wheel in the dirt and lost the car, lost 3 places, so I finished 8th. The positive is the car now is on the second row of the grid in 3rd position, and gives me a chance for the 3rd race.
Rick Styrene's behind you, more importantly.
Rick Styrene is behind me. How long that will last for is, I've seen him come from the back of the grid in virtually every race he comes in. He is the daddy. He's just wonderful in these cars, and he's just got it all under control. Yeah, I am expecting to have to look in my mirrors, but we'll see how it goes.
Nick Hull on pole, Marc Mackenzie alongside, then Adam Croft and Cliff Graham in 4th, Steve Potts and RJ Josh next, with Jonathan Greensmith and Steve Boyles on row 4. Will Sharpe and JM Littman followed by Rick Styrene, then Bernie Printy in the first of the productions, then Julian Brown and Rebecca Jackson, followed by Hugh Peart and David Jones. Next it's Philip Waters and Clive Morrison, Anthony McVinsky and Simon Hawksley, with Alistair Kirkham, the race winner for the 924s from race 2, starting at the back of the field. A squeak of the brakes greets Steve Boyles onto the grid. There's the view from Jonathan Greensmith. JM Littman, I love the quote. Touring car style, he's going to follow Richard Styrene through the field. We'll see whether Richard is going to get the jump on him at the start. Lights are on. Off they go. We're underway here at Zandvoort for the 3rd race of the weekend. Jonathan Greensmith lightning off the line. So too is Steve Boyles. That's RJ Josh in front. Marc Mackenzie is there with Nick Hull on the front of the grid. Through goes 66. Will Sharpe 3 wide into Tarzan. Adam Croft on the outside line. Marc Mackenzie on the inside. Mackenzie squeezes through into lead position. This could be, an unknown circuit, a reverse grid. I take my hat off to the organisers and more importantly the drivers of these Porsches as they go through Hugenholtz for the first time. On board with Steve Bond. There's Richard Styrene following Jonathan Greensmith, and behind him JM Littman. It's incredible driving standards from these boys, and girl of course in the mix as well. In a lesser formula there would have been absolute carnage on an unknown track, a reverse grid. That start says it all for me. On board with Will Sharpe, looking up the inside of Nick Hull. Jonathan Greensmith on board. There's Rick Styrene going through. Cliff Graham ahead of him. Styrene switches from one side of the circuit to the other. Incredible driving from Styrene. Well, they said he's the daddy. He's making progress through the field. Up front though, it's Marc Mackenzie still leading. Oh, spin for Adam Croft. Hard sidelines, Crofty. I paused because there could have been a very nasty moment there, but thankfully everybody's avoiding him. There goes J.M. Littman, past Greensmith, now challenging Cliff Graham. Now remember that Littman was behind Cliff Graham in the first race of the day, and let's see whether he can get past him in these early stages of this third race of the day. Littman looking down the inside, Graham grabs the line and gets hit. J.M. Littman though, look at that, carries on, both hands on the wheel, still focused on what's going on ahead. Here's the battle with the 924s, Anthony Bekvinski in the mix as well. It's a job to know where to look. Styron down the inside of Arjo Josh. Now what position has he got up to? He's into third place and we're barely round lap 1 yet, and there's a challenge for the lead. Through into the lead goes Will Sharpe, and following him through into second place is Richard Styron. Styron second, onto lap 2, outside line as they come into Tarzan. Arjo Josh is out and Styron's going round the outside at Tarzan. Can he hang on to it? Will Sharpe seen him, Sharpe gets back in front, grabs the line, retains the lead into Hugenholtz for the... Well, this is the Gerlach corner. Now they come round into Hugenholtz here. J.M. Littman, we go on board with him. He was hoping to follow Richard Styron, he is, but he's a couple of cars behind, still trying to work his way through the field. On board with Steve Boyles, Jonathan Greensmith up the inside of Nick Hull. And now he's being made to work. Still side by side these cars, inside line at the next corner. But it's still Will Sharpe out front. Richard Styron in second. What an incredible right way through the pack. And at the moment, challenging for the race lead. Styron all over the back of William Sharpe, who of course is going to be hungry for his first win. But Styron already, he's on the attack. And he's got the inside line. They're side by side. Will Sharpe still there, turns in, one hand on the gear stick, and well, he knows that it's game over already because Styron's gone through. Not only has he gone through the field, he's going to post the first best flying lap as well. Let's see whether Will Sharpe can recover and have a go. There's our Josh running in third place at the moment. So Josh, this is very impressive set of opening laps from all three drivers. But Richard Styron, right the way from the back of the class. Will Sharpe now will learn from watching Richard Styron and how he takes the corners. Arjo Josh behind him, Marc Mackenzie in fourth, then it's Cliff Graham. Cracking racing, you know. It's still not all sorted out, is it? Because there are a lot of places behind that need to get sorted out. Oh, look at that! The Union flag car, the Austin Powers livery of Nick Hull goes off, loses a little bit of ground. Rick Styron up across the line, can pick the line that he wants, and it's not even halfway defensive going into Tarzan. A lap ago, he was looking at the outside line, and he's just driven through the field. The reigning champion, looking for a 7th straight win here. He won the second race from pole position. Battle on for second. Arjo having a good go. Marc Mackenzie, Cliff Graham, then J.M. Littman, followed by Jonathan Greensmith, Steve Boyles, then Nick Hull. On board with Jonathan in the yellow car. Working hard, Jonathan Greensmith, trying to work his way through the field. The significant thing about Rick Styron's drive for me is that he didn't have to make all those passes in the first lap, but he was just absolutely on a mission in this 8th round of the Toyo Tyres Porsche Championship. The Logson Group car running well. Cliff Graham looks to the inside of Marc Mackenzie. J.M. Littman down behind him. Littman goes to the outside line, and Jonathan Greensmith coming up the inside. Marc Mackenzie gets a spin going into the corner. Again, masterly avoidance from most of the drivers. You've got to be so switched on. If you've not had a race drive yourself, if it's possible to get a passenger drive in a car, I thoroughly recommend getting a fast lap with a driver, and even on a passenger lap you'll get an idea of somebody's spins of how quickly these drivers have to react. On board with Jonathan Greensmith. Down the inside of J.M. Littman. I think he's going to hang on to it. This is the view from J.M.'s car. The Webhead's car turns in. Is he going to try and return the favour as they come down into the S's, turn 16 and 17 on this Zandvoort course? Greensmith back there. Littman really has been involved in the cut and thrust in this race, but Jonathan Greensmith, who had a very strong second race coming through the field, to take 5th position after his DNF in the first race. Cliff Graham up ahead of them, so J.M. Littman has been passed by Greensmith. Then it's Steve Boyles, but here comes Littman. Looks at the inside line down into Tarzan. And he's just too far back, as you can see from this one. Look how hard he's working. It's a very physical circuit. Littman up through the gears into Gerlach, turn 5. And then back to the Hugenholtz corner. You can see the main grandstand here. It's a good place to come and watch. You can sit in the grandstand and see a fair bit of the main arena, including the back straights of the main arena here. The short circuit, you can see pretty much all the circuit off from the grandstand. 72 is Alistair Kirkham, who looks like he could be on his way to another 924 win. Down behind him is Philip Waters in the 15 car. So Littman and Greensmith still at it, both newcomers to the championship. Greensmith out of the also BRSCC run Mazda Championship. And if you've not seen our programme before, BRSCC stands for the British Racing and Sports Car Club, one of the main organisers of motor racing in the country. As Littman looks up the inside, and is he going to go through? We can see his next target, Cliff Graham up front, and there's the view from Jonathan Greensmith. He doesn't look happy about that, but J.M. Littman goes through. Littman through, Steve Boyles lining up as well. So the Mazda man has been passed. We go on board with Steve Boyles. He's going to line up to have a go as well. Looks up the inside line. Here comes the yellow car of Jonathan Greensmith, ex-champion in Mazdas, chasing former Caterham racer. And then down behind them it's Nick Hull. Richard Styron set a best lap on lap 3 of 2:00.7, slower than he did in race 2. He's got the lap record here, which is 2:00.3, 126.5 kilometres per hour as the race, well, not the leaders, Cliff Graham goes through. With J.M. Littman again looking down the inside. Then we go back with Jonathan Greensmith. Still working hard. Jonathan's car not looking as happy, I don't think, as it might at the moment. Cliff Graham ahead of J.M. Littman, which is where he was in race number 1. The early stages of our programme here on Motors TV. So it's kind of a little bit of deja vu for JM, who's trying to deal with Cliff at the moment. Arjo Josh flashes through picture, running at the moment in 3rd place. It's Rick Styron out front still from Will Sharpe.
Want to keep up with all the racing action at the track? Well, download the new Go Racing TV iPhone and Android app. And remember to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
Welcome back to Zandvoort in Holland for round 8 of the Toyo Tyres Porsche Championship with Webb Hetton. We're on board with J.M. Littman, who's forced his way through past Cliff Graham. Some very physical racing out there today, and J.M. clearly taking no prisoners. Jonathan Greensmith passed here, and he's got a problem. It looks like the ex-Mazda champion is going to have to nurse the car back into the pit lane. Cliff Graham now with the attention of Steve Boyles. So J.M. Littman very clearly on a mission. Oh, there's a spin! Now, was there contact there between Arjo Josh and Will Sharpe? I'm not sure. Arjo's still facing the wrong way. A very worrying place to be for Arjo Josh. That is one of the scariest things in motor racing, facing head-on a pack coming down on you at full tilt. So Arjo, who's running very, very well indeed there in 3rd place, has lost that. This is the view from Steve Boyles, now trying to close on Cliff Graham. So Steve Boyles now 5th. Cliff Graham 4th, J.M. Littman ahead of him in 3rd place, so J.M.'s on for a podium in the reverse grid, which is going to be good. Boyles looks up the inside. It's Nick Hull down behind them. I'm wondering how far back Arjo is, or whether he's gone into the pit lane to perhaps extricate some gravel that might be in the car. On board with David Jones. Oh, a little bit of a moment off there for Clive Morrison. Jones comes out in sympathy. Round the outside goes Simon Hawksley. Well, you can see some. It's been a long, tiring weekend for the drivers. So I think they'll have earned a little rest after everything that's gone in. Anthony McVinsky running well. Anthony hoping to get a podium here as we go back on board with Steve Boyles. Steve still trying to work towards a podium. This at the moment 5th position will be, it's actually the lowest that he's finished so far this season. That was round 2 in our weekend at Rockingham, but still very good healthy points being picked up by Boyles at the moment. Normally a podium regular. So Boyles closing in on Cliff Graham, who we said at the start of the programme having his first meeting of the year, non-finish for him. He had a spin in race 2, was running very strongly after making his way through the field, but ultimately dropping down a tad down the order into 8th place. But now running in 4th, coming under pressure from Steve Boyles. J.M. Lippman ahead of them, trying to close down on Will Sharpe. Sharpe at the moment the quicker of the 2 drivers, so I'm not sure whether J.M. is going to be able to close him down as we head towards the closing stages. Cliff Graham, managing director of a corrugated cardboard box company. So you could say that one is the cardboard Boxster. We'll avoid the puns as we go back to the 924s. Clive Morrison chasing Anthony Mekvinsky for position there. Alistair Kirkham and Simon Hawksley up ahead as we still continue to focus on the scrap for 4th place. Cliff Graham there. Steve Boyles is down behind him, and up ahead of them J.M. Lippman, building a little bit of a lead over the pair on his way to a 3rd podium of the weekend if he can hang on for it. Will Sharpe still running in 2nd place, but this battle for 4th really does catch the eye. I think at the moment the 3rd place car starting to pull away from them just a little bit. Still Richard Styron. To put into perspective, Richard Styron's pace in this one, fastest lap of 2 minutes 007. And Will Sharpe, the 2nd fastest driver on the circuit, 2 minutes 2.303, so 2.5 quicker. On his best lap is Richard Styron, but back on board with Steve Boyles, who's lapping 2 minutes 2.6, and Cliff Graham's best lap time 2 minutes 2.3. Wide line there from the 4th place car, and Steve Boyles still picking up some useful points, even if it is 5th position in the race. Cars head down the straight from turn 14 into 15 towards the S's. Club corner where the club circuit rejoins the main international circuit here at Zandvoort. Then into the S-curves, round into Kumo corner, and then the lap finishes back at the S-curves. Through goes Stephen Potts. With behind Stephen Potts, Jonathan Greensmith. So Jonathan, I think, is going to be disappointed overall with his weekend. Cracking drive in race number 2. On board with David Jones, who gets passed by Philip Waters. Through 2 as well goes Clive Morrison, and Morrison goes past Philip Waters as well. David Jones returns the compliment and goes through. There is Arjo Josh after his spin earlier on, has managed to keep ahead of Marc Mackenzie. So Arjo having a pretty good run of things at the moment. Marc Mackenzie keeping him honest though. Mackenzie in the 69 car, owner of Mackenzie Hotels. Made his debut in 2010 in the 924s and moved up, but going back to Steve Potts and Nick Hull, who resumed the battle that they had in race number 1. They were in separate battles in race 2. Potts the chaser once again. Potts got the better of him to take 6th position in race 1. Can he hang on to that again? Jonathan Greensmith down behind them. Let's have a look at the lap times. Potts at the moment 2:03.5, so slightly the quicker driver, but Nick Hull holding sway and looking as if he might be on for a 7th position here, which would jointly be his best finish of the season. 7th in race number 1, his best finish of the season so far. So Nick, I don't think, will be too disappointed with that here at Zandvoort. Looks like he's got the measure at the moment of Steve Potts. Now J.M. Lippman, the car going through shot, is 3rd in the race at the moment. Momentarily back with Potts leading Hull battle, and then down behind them Arjo Josh, who's running well. Arjo running a little bit quicker than these cars, so possible that he might make up a couple more places. Certainly I think he's going to make up ground as we head into the closing stages of this race. Across the line they go. So 7th position, Nick Hull at the moment. Potts closes up as they come down into Tarzan corner. Looks at the inside line here. It's a wide line in from Nick Hull, but he gets across, grabs the apex, and that's going to force Stephen Potts to go a little bit wider. I think possibly he might have lost a little bit of ground as a result of that. Here they come into Hugenholtz, and this 180-degree corner and a lovely climb out of it. Almost like the part of the circuit at Brands Hatch where you climb out of Surtees and go onto the Grand Prix loop at Brands. I think it's fair to say this particular Zandvoort circuit a little bit more technical, as Cliff Graham goes through on the inside of Bernie Printy, followed by Steve Boyle. So Bernie finds himself a lap down. He'll be pleased, I think, to come away with 3 finishes, having not managed to set qualifying time, the car being rebuilt. And as you will know, the car was rebuilt and ready 5 minutes to go before the first race of the weekend, and Steve Potts having a very good go here at Nick Hull. Side by side they go. Potts in black 25 tries his hardest, but Nick Hull gets a slightly better run out of the corner and hangs on to it. Now the scrapping pair being caught by Arjo Josh. So Nick Hull at the moment in 6th position as we go back to 4th place with Cliff Graham. Cliff not lost too much ground on J.M. Littman at the moment, who's ahead of him, and Steve Boyles hasn't been able to do anything about the car in front, and nobody has been able to do anything at all about Richard Styron. Remember, started at the very back of the Boxsters and came through to 2nd place by the end of lap 1 to then take the lead from Will Sharpe on lap 2. And it's going to be win number 7 of the year. Here comes Richard Styron in the Logson Group car, who make it all possible for him. He crosses the line to take the win. It's Will Sharpe, who looks equally delighted with 2nd place. 3rd place, I think, is going to go to J.M. Littman. Back we go to the battle with Nick Hull. Now, where is Arjo Josh? Has Arjo managed to get past? Let's have a look. Or has there been some argy-bargy? No, he hasn't. I think Arjo's the car in front. He's just out of shot at the moment. Yes, he is. Arjo Josh has made it through to 6th. Nick Hull will take 7th place ahead of Steve Potts. Here they come across the line. What a cracking weekend's racing. I know all the drivers again wanted us to thank Stena Lines for their part in getting the drivers over here to Holland. Here comes Alistair Kirkham, who's going to take a 2nd win of the weekend. Fastest lap in class is going to go to Simon Hawksley, who's running 2nd. It's going to be a class win for Julian Brown, just ahead of them. Julian Brown and Rebecca Jackson taking 1st and 2nd in the productions. But Richard Styron goes away with the overall lap record, 3 fastest laps and a 3rd pole position of the year and 3 wins. Richard Styron the winner, 5.6 seconds clear this time of Will Sharpe. J.M. Littman in 3rd, a hard-fought podium for him. Cliff Graham in 4th from Steve Boyles, and Arjo Josh in 6th. Alistair Kirkham's 2nd win of the weekend in the 924s from Simon Hawksley and Clive Morrison. Julian Brown this time takes the production win ahead of Rebecca Jackson. Richard Styron leads the championship, clear of Will Sharpe in 2nd with Steve Boyles 3rd and Jonathan Greensmith 4th from Arjo Josh, and Adam Croft in 6th position. In the 924, Simon Hawksley 1 point clear of Alistair Kirkham with Clive Morrison in 3rd. Then it's Julian Brown in the productions, leading from Rebecca Jackson by a single point with Bernie Printy in 3rd. Join us next time when we're back in England at Snetterton.